Okay, so today's plan is to unbox and check out all the equipment that I got to power the van. Let's get started. It's a bit windy, so I apologize for the audio. Of course, it picks up right there. This phase of the project, first phase of the project, I guess, other than buying the van, is to make sure everything works. I'm gonna plug it all in and get it running so that I know kind of if I'm missing anything, how long cables I need, and so forth. So yeah, so we'll just do a little time lapse. As I'm unboxing stuff, I'm gonna do my best to explain what each piece does and how it kind of plays together for the power. So this is a 100 watt panel from Renergy. I have two of these, which is probably way more than I need. Some cardboard making noise. This is gonna go here-ish, I guess. Mounting them to the roof racks is gonna be another project. But yeah, so each of this should apply plenty of power. I went with Renergy. There's no big story there really. A couple people I talked to liked them. They had some good packages. They were on sale. And I figured it was a good place to start. If down the road I decide I don't like it or I find something better or whatever, I can always upgrade later on. This seemed like a good place to start. It wasn't that expensive comparatively. These especially, so it's amazing how cheap these have gotten. So anyway, these are where it starts, and let's keep going. Okay, so this is a 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. It is very heavy. To give you an idea how big that is or how much capacity that is, the little USB battery packs that you can get to charge your phone and stuff, those tend to be, like a good sized one is going to be 10,000 milliamp hours, which is 10 amp hours. So this is 100 amp hours. They're also a lot more complex. There's all sorts of circuitry and stuff in here. Theoretically, this is going to last 10 years. I mean, not on a charge, just like in general. So that's why they kind of have all this stuff in it. These are also super expensive. I'll put links in the description to where, you know, all the stuff. So buying two of these, that was kind of the biggest cost from my plan to kind of go big or go home, to go more than I needed. Because probably I only need one of these. That'll last, that'll charge everything, especially given the solar and the chargers and the fact that I can plug in and so on. So, but you know, again, since I was going to be all installing it anyway, I figured I might as well get two if I was going to have space for two anyway. So I'm going to put this down because it's really heavy, and let's keep going. So this is a DC to DC charger. And so what this is going to let me do is charge the batteries from the alternator of the car. So while I'm driving, it'll charge the batteries. I was going to get this either way. It just seemed to make sense that to be able to do that. One of the reasons I bought this specific model of van is because it comes with a 150 amp alternator, which is kind of bigger than normal for a car size anyway. So theoretically, as I'm driving, it'll charge up the batteries, and when I get to whatever campsite I am going to or whatever, I'll have a full battery charge, or at least a good charge in it, without dealing with the solar panels. Like, obviously if the solar panels are going, then it doesn't matter. Again, it goes to kind of the overkill that I'm going for this whole thing, but this seemed like a good idea anyway, to just have it in case there's no sun. Obviously that happens. And it wasn't that expensive, and it's fairly small. Now the wiring of it is going to be a little more of a challenge because I think I need to run it all the way up here, and as I said in the last video, my power stuff's going to be back here. We'll see. Maybe there's a better way to do that. I haven't really figured that out yet. But hey, that's what we're here for, or what I'm doing. Okay, so this beast is an inverter charger. You know what? I'm putting it down. It's way too heavy. That is an inverter charger. 2,000 watts. So again, it's more than I really need probably, but that's enough to do like a cook plate or certainly a rice cooker, kettle, that kind of thing. It's called an inverter charger because it takes the DC power from the batteries, it converts it to AC, which is what you have in your house. So anything that you'd plug into a normal wall socket that runs on AC, this converts to that. Most of the stuff I'm going to have in the van will run on DC, so that's fine. But those few things that I want to run AC, obviously you're going to need that. So again, this is more than I would strictly need for the stuff that I'm going to put in there. However, what this one does, in addition to having the extra room, do something like a rice cooker, kettle and stuff. What this specific one does, why it's called an inverter charger, is I can actually use this to convert back to DC and charge the batteries on shore power. So I can run an extension cord from somebody's house that I'm staying at, a campsite, wherever I can find a plug into this, and then that'll charge the batteries. So it's like yet another thing that lets me charge up the batteries, that just redundancy. That's kind of the whole thing I'm doing with this is robust redundancy, so that I'm never having in a situation where I don't have power to run something or whatever. It was also good, it's like I feel like having it like at a certain level means I don't have to worry about it. It's just there, it just works. Yeah, so anyway, that's the plan. This is obviously going to be one of the more challenging things to mount because it is extremely heavy, and I don't want that thing just bouncing around back there. So part of my whole plan for mounting things is that plus the two batteries, which are also heavy, putting them in a way that they're out of the way. I don't have to like move them around, but if I need to get them out again, I can. So I'm figuring at the very least I'm going to put them on a board, mount them to a board or something, and then maybe mount that to the car. Another possibility, maybe I'll put them on like sliders, because there's plenty that are, you know, sturdy enough to handle that kind of weight. We'll see, that might be a next step. But at the very least, I'm just going to put them on a board back there so that they're secure, they're not like moving around or anything. Man, I just want to leave that thing there for now, but let's keep going. So this is the last piece. Probably shouldn't have been last, but that's how I unboxed it. This is an MPPT charge controller. So what this does is it's kind of the brains between most of the gear, or at least the key parts. So you can't plug the solar panels directly into the batteries. I mean, I guess technically you could, but you're not supposed to do it that way. This figures out what the solar panels are doing, figures out what the batteries want, need, so forth, makes sure everybody's all playing kind of nice together. That's my technical term, nice. So yeah, so it goes, so solar panels on the roof, to this, to the batteries, and then presumably a bunch of other things. I'm all figuring it out as I go. Which is fine, I guess, sure. Nothing wrong with 2,400 watts of electrical power being played with by an idiot. So anyway, that's the key unboxing aspect of all of this. There's obviously tons of wires and cables. Actually, I have another box of like fuses and stuff. But that's kind of the main part of it, and you can kind of see. So you've got, here, I'll get out of the way. So you've got solar panels, batteries, the inverter charger, DC to DC charger, cables and such. So yeah, next step is figuring out kind of how all this stuff works. So I'm gonna start wiring it together, or at least putting everything together, make sure I have all the pieces. All right, let's see how it goes. Okay, so this will give you a better idea of the layout. These two connect to here. Those two connect to here. Though that connects to them, maybe. And then this thing also does. I feel like I'm missing a piece. I obviously need to figure out, read the owner's manual, figure out how it all goes together. So that's the next step. I will pause here and come back when I know a little bit more and I'm not making a fool of myself. Certainly going to keep making a fool of myself, don't get me wrong. Just slightly less so. There's two ways to connect this stuff. Series and parallel. And I always get the two mixed up. So I don't know why. I've read it a billion times and like it should be very logical. And for some reason my brain just goes, nah, you're not going to remember this. But anyway, so with parallel, you connect the positive to the positive, the negative to the negative, and it's essentially like making the whole thing bigger. You're still one, like it makes two panels into one or four panels into one, whatever. So it's still a 12-volt panel, but the amps go up. And that's kind of what we're dealing with, is volts and amps, which together times each other equals watts, but math. So so with this, you get it's a 12 volt coming out of it and around 10.5 amps. So the other way to do it is in series. So in that case, it's positive to negative, negative to positive. Now that keeps the amps the same, but doubles the voltage. The advantage to that is you can use smaller wires to transmit the power. Over the distances we're talking here, which is basically from there to there, it's not that big of a deal. Now the convenience of, or the good thing about buying an MPPT controller is that I can actually do that. I can make that decision and it doesn't really matter because the amount of power is essentially staying the same. So whether you have 12 volts at 10 amps or 24 volts at 5 amps-ish, the power is basically, the amount of watts stays the same. That's why these are both 100 watt panels. And with this charge controller, it'll send the batteries only what they need to power up. And that's the other thing I forgot to mention in the other video, is you don't want to overcharge the batteries. That's bad. So this kind of talks back and forth with the batteries to say, okay, the battery's like, yeah, I'm full, I'm fine. Okay, I'm going to dissipate that stuff as heat or whatever. So that's the convenience of what I bought, and why I bought this slightly more expensive charge controller was because then that is going to be 12 volts no matter what, but these could be 24, and the charge controller is able to change that to 12 for the batteries, essentially. So, so I don't really need to make that decision right now. Fine. That decision is made. And then, just to give you an idea, because I'm not actually going to physically connect everything today, but the idea is kind of everything comes off the batteries, but I'm not going to just run a bunch of wires and just plug them all into the battery. Everything's going to have a fuse. That's the safest way to kind of do these things. So these will come off to like a fuse bank, and then the fuse bank will go to this, and so forth. At least I think this connects directly to the battery. Again, these are all things I'm figuring out as I go. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of this video, I think. Next video, we will start doing stuff to the inside of the van so that we can find a place for these things and figure out how much wiring I need. I have the wires for this. I don't have the wires for this. There's obviously like little bits of things that I'm going to need to do as I start installing these things. It does seem to, my original plan was to kind of get everything hooked up out here, but I think actually it makes more sense to hook it all up in the van and then figure out how much or how long the cables I need and so forth. That'll be a little bit challenging because the panels aren't going to go in right away. I think I need to get a special bracket to get these up onto the roof rails. But hey, that's all part of the process. I feel a little weird because I feel like these videos need to have like, no, I did this, but it's all a process, and I'm just kind of learning as I go. Hopefully next time there'll be a little less wind. I hope that isn't too bothersome. But yeah, all right, anyway, thanks for watching, and have a good one.